Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I really was touched by what you were saying and just wanted to share. We were just chatting about the difficulties in the early ages that each of us had, wanting to bond with our child. Our child couldn't latch on to the nipple because of Goldenhar, in our case, but this is true of cleft palate and other craniofacial conditions. And it's hard when you want to bond and you're getting all these messages and the anatomical structure doesn't allow for it. So t tell me, like, I want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I had a difficult time because my daughter was born with a small cleft lip, and it's called bilateral macrostomia. So her mouth was sort of quite wide on both
Oh,
sides.
on the she had this kind of cleft, which is different
She
than
had a
what
small
Laser
cleft
had.
here, which
A-
is just
and
a very tiny. Um, but the biggest problem is with this bilateral macrostomia where the mouth was wider there, which
oh,
meant when I was feeding, there was a lot of, it was difficult to get her into a position where she could retain the milk. And then there was a lot of leaking, which
oh,
meant that then I'd have to keep every hour or couple of hours, I'd be feeding and feeding again.
yeah.
And then the Cleft Lip and Palate Association nurses came in and they suggested these clapper bottles with
Yeah,
different
Haberman
colours.
nipple. Do you guys call it Haberman?
Um, I don't think they call it that. No, I don't know.
We tried that also. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but so what I did then is I expressed milk. I did a bit of both. I did some breastfeeding with a bit of leakage. Then I expressed milk into these bottles, and I carried on with that until about 6 weeks. And then I thought, well, after a while, what's the point in carrying on if I'm just expressing the milk into the bottle? And I've got all these hospital appointments to attend. So I just ended up moving on to formula from about 6 weeks.
Mhm.
Um, but there was, sort of pressure to sort of carry on with breastfeeding, or there was like, people sort of making suggestions about it being better for bonding and this, that, and the other. But to be completely honest with you, I actually think it's is a load of nonsense because whether the baby's on the breast and you're holding them, or whether you're holding them with a bottle and a teat that's right, you're still bonding with them in pretty
You
much
were
the same
talking
way.
about how they're reaching up and pulling your hair, you're looking at them smiling
Yeah,
and
yeah. I mean,
just doing the same bonding,
yeah, it's no
right?
different. You're bonding with them, and then in that way. And then, and personally, I don't think that big bond comes in the very beginning. I think that comes when your baby can make eye. I'm a baby after 6 weeks. Your baby makes eye contact with you.
Yeah.
The baby knows it's you. The baby starts smiling. The baby, you're holding the baby. They start holding your hair or doing whatever they do. That's what Lucia did with me. She was holding my hair. That's what bonding was. If I'm just exhausted in the middle of the night, feeding and then feeding again, and it's leaking, I wouldn't say that the bonding at that point was as probably as good as when she was happy and content with the bottle, getting a bit more formula. She was happy with me. I think there's a lot of pressure on mums with all this breastfeeding. But when I look back, I don't actually think it makes that much difference. I think do it if you can, try it if you can. But if you don't like it and you don't want to do it, I actually think that it doesn't affect the bonding process.
Yeah, I think that
However,
that's what you're saying is gold because what they can't, I mean, I understand sort of a national effort to get um parents bonding with their children, but the point is the bonding and what it that those guidelines weren't like uh breastfeeding was not possible for me. Laser could not latch and got 1 to 2 drops at a time. Even if I got a special nipple and put it on my nipple, laser could not make a suck because the structure laser was missing this much jaw,
Yeah.
and there was mechanically laser's tongue was blocking uh, their ability to swallow. So there was not a way to anatomically get nourishment this way. So the goal of breastfeeding can't be met in sometimes. And like you're saying, um, it's not about becoming guilty that you can't give your child what they need. You can,
Yeah.
right? You can. It's like you're
Absolutely.
saying, they talk sometimes about kangaroo care, which is getting naked and being flesh to flesh. That's part of the bonding, looking down and saying "boo boo boo boo" while the person is eating. That's bonding.
Yeah. It's
That's
all sorts of
bonding.
bonding. It depends how you define it. I mean, there's loads of people who I know wouldn't even attempt breastfeeding nowadays. There's a lot of people who go straight, they do the colossum, then they move straight on to the bottle and they don't want to do it at all and it's not for them. And I don't think any less of them. I don't think their baby's going to bond less with them. I don't think, you can't remember as a baby, can you? You can't remember. So how is it going to affect you in the long run? It's not really, is it? I just think,
Right, and then there's nourishment questions that you can figure out depending on your own brand of, if you see a naturopath and they say mother's milk is better or whatever, like these are choices just like it is how you choose to feed yourself or your, you know, your grandma. Do you make her the strudel,
exactly, yeah, it's far
right?
too much
It does have
emphasis on the word.
sugar, like it's a
Yeah.
choice.
And then
And
even like when people are breastfeeding, it could even be like, oh, well, what are they eating? Are they having this? Are they having that? Or people could be scrutinized down. I think that mothers, all of it going through pregnancy, right through to the breastfeeding, right through to like bringing their children up. Mothers are, scrutinized in
extremely
ways that
tasked and
fathers are not.
guilted and
Like there's a lot more pressure about this.
well, I
So
think, yeah, like to me, a key takeaway is like even with the study that I've been part of, we and you did a similar study. It was about the psychosocial experiences of parents, caregivers of kids with golden heart or whatever you call it, craniofacial microsomia, hemifacial microsomia, whatever. Um, that it's like drinking from a fire hose when the when you have a new baby, and that one of the most important things is to know how to, and that you can bond, have joy, and create that little like love bubble. It's and like I had to do that in the NICU. We were in the NICU for the first month. So my question was, how do I bond with all the beeps and lights and stuff? And I made it a priority. And I think if you can create a way of really connecting and your routines with your family where your joy is happening and the baby is pulling your hair
yeah,
and you know um that really makes a strong nucleus because you are going to be more challenged like you were saying. You're going to be running back and forth to appointments in a medical system. It's not like other parents that are taking their kids to the some other experience that's softer and gentler. It's not a soft and gentle, but you can have strength, and you can, I'll never forget that laser, we're driving up to Children's Hospital and, um, I'm, like, all stressed. "I'm giving my child this terrible experience. She's having such a hard time," and, like, she's like, "There's my husband." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Duly noted." Right? So keeping that family, buoyancy is really important, and not being guilted by you're not whatever, you're not nursing your baby the traditional way. You're doing it wrong, like you're going to scar them for life or whatever. It's, you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, I think parents could be criticised for anything and everything. I mean, there was somebody I knew who was raising a child, following a book by somebody um, I think it was a lady called Gina Ford, possibly. I have to double check that. Might have been Gina Ford. I'm not even sure if she'd had children herself, but the book, yeah. I mean, I haven't read it. I'd have to check that out. I didn't have time for reading books and things like that. But it was the most ridiculous system, I thought, of bringing up the child, where they used timers. A snack was put down, you put a timer. The child's got so long to eat their snack. They're in the bath. They've got a 10-minute egg timer. They've got so long to have a bath. Then they're out. It was like a military, you know,
and what's the purpose
routine.
of
It was
that?
like really, living life like that. Everything on a timer, so they
Raising
know
more
what to.
compliant children, or what's the goal of that? I don't know.
Yeah, that they understand. I don't know. It was like they understand routine and respect, and I thought, oh, I couldn't relate to it at all, and I certainly wouldn't be following anything like that. So I think it's very, parenting is very unique. It's unique to you. It's how you've been brought up, how you see life, what you want to do. And I think that people should not, be taken in by all of this nonsense online and different books and so-called experts. There's a lot of experts out there. You should be doing this and you should be doing that. I think you know yourself.
Well, you're a
Um,
psychologist, and I think that this is crucial. We could have like a whole webinar on um, receiving information and not using it as a bludgeon stick on yourself,
yes.
because the medical system is always defining what, and even psychology oftentimes,
Mm.
what you're lacking. What compared to the norm are you lacking? And
Yes.
even to qualify for services, like, when I was getting, so Laser could not speak because Laser had a trach and a jaw that didn't function. It was a mechanical issue. Well, they had, preschool classes using sign language. And but Laser had to qualify, and those are only if you are bilaterally deaf, and Laser was only unilaterally deaf. So they had to uh, qualify Laser, like, did Laser have enough impediment to qualify to um, go to a class where she could be understood?
Mm.
Because she signed. We taught her sign language. And without sign language, she couldn't communicate because um, she couldn't speak. At the end, developmentally, if you can't speak at the same developmental time as other kids, your brain doesn't develop in the same way, and then you have reading issues and learning issues and blah blah blah. And I'm a teacher, and I'm like, I don't want my kid to have delays because they can't speak. You can certainly talk and be understood. You can express what's in your heart. if you use sign language. So we're going to speak sign language in my house. And me and Sebastian learned sign language. Well, I had to, Laser had to look bad enough on the, like, to qualify, you had to look bad enough, right? And then you have to not internalize the badness measurements, because all of the language in the medical system, what is
Oh, really?
that?
How come you got balloons?
I don't know. I'd like some more, please.
That's good, isn't it?
That's a Zoom thing. I think they have an AI on Zoom, because the other day I did something like this. I don't know if I can do it again. Maybe if it has it. Oh, oh,
Oh, oh, what did you do? That didn't work. I was. You're in the coffee shop.
where have you taken us? So anyway, um, oh, this is so fun to be talking to you.
Absolutely.
I think
Oh, there you are now.
the point is the point is to have fun and be buoyant, just like we're doing, and to learn how to sort of have a light hold. Like, if you're going to navigate, how do you learn all these terms about the deficiencies that you and your family have? You have this deficiency, and hold it like this and laugh about it and go, yeah, well, that's what you say. Yeah, I'll use that term for a while. Because why? Because I want Laser to experience being able to talk to not just me and Sebastian. Because at an early age, Laser could be understood by two people, and Laser could communicate. Like, if Laser wanted to communicate to you, they would talk to me like this, and I would say, Laser is saying that they would really like to play with that ball, can they? You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm,
but that's like not as good as being able to talk to you. So I wanted more people. I wanted that experience of talking together with more people, and I got it for I think 6 months of a year. And then uh they said, sorry, like, I couldn't get services in my town because my town's too small. So they welcomed us with open arms while they were smaller, but then they got an influx of other kids that they had to serve by law. And they said, you're out. So my point is, resiliency and family buoyancy requires the kind of playing we were just doing.
mm,
And laughing, and and taking all these, like, you're not a breastfeeder, kind of things,
yeah.
and going,
So
you
what?
know,
Yeah. Just
bullocks to you.
yeah.
you know, thank
Yeah.
you very much. I think I'm capable of making a decision, because we get intruded upon more. Like, if you have a typical child, nobody tells you not to give them a Snickers bar. Like, I see
Yeah.
people, feeding their kids nonsense, like, way further out than, but we get a lot of guilt put on us because we're interacting with people who suddenly have an opinion, and it's not like they shouldn't, because
Oh,
we have a medically involved kid, and we have to feed them how we like. You had different feeding dynamics than I did, but
yeah.
anyway.
Sometimes you could get the feeling like perhaps other parents think you've done something wrong. I mean, I don't know whether that was like my paranoia in the beginning, or they think perhaps you've done something wrong, or lots of ridiculous sort of assumptions and things. Like, I think somebody said, "Oh, well, will she need to go to a special school because she got the hearing aid?" I mean, I don't know. I suppose, like, I can sort of understand now why the question might have been asked, but I think at the time I was quite annoyed that just because of a hearing aid somebody had made that assumption. And that's the thing with it, is there's lots of like silly assumptions about stuff. And I remember once somebody had asked me whether she'd been burnt because she had an operation for the bilateral macrostomia had. her lip repaired, and somebody asked whether, like, she'd been burnt and, had an accident, which, makes you feel awful as a parent. Felt quite angry about that. But again, looking back, as time's gone on, I sort of think, well, there are kids that have accidents and there are these things that happen, and, somebody obviously got the wrong end of the stick and it wasn't intended, but you're just very sensitive at that point with different opinions and things. It's a difficult thing to go through. But I think as you get older, like you're saying, you wise up and you realize that there's a lot of nonsense out there and you don't have to listen to it. You don't
That's
have to
right.
listen to this rubbish. You
Right.
don't have to take any of it. This, the book, somebody's just writing a book to sell it. If somebody wants to follow their diet and their life or whatever, let them get on with it. If somebody wants to follow every rule in the book about breastfeeding, let them, somebody's written about, let them do that. People can make up their own way, make up their own paths, as they do with everything else in their life, and parenting is just a part of life. um, and you do your best by what you know in life.
Mhm.
um, and if you need help and guidance, you can ask for it, but you don't have to, you know, take on board all of this nonsense or put pressure on yourself, um, to be this perfect parent or be following all these supposedly amazing guidelines and things. You don't need to put that pressure on, on yourself. And I think it's easy for me to say that now, but for people in that situation, new parents and things, I would give them that advice. And and also for people who have got golden hour themselves, or young people, they need to cut themselves some slack as well and not be putting lots of pressure on themselves as well.
Yeah, I think like, okay, so now I'm going to say something um outside of this.
Fair enough. We've got 2 minutes on there left, so
Okay.
you know.
So right there, this is what I've learned. I could take a clip that was as short as something as like you saying, I think this is not exactly what you said, but I think we all hear a lot of rubbish, and you have to choose what you're going to take on and what you're going to say no to, and go on ahead, uh, because parents, and I would say, because you didn't say this exactly, but um, parents in the I would say, like, introducing the clip, parents in the medical system suddenly have a whole bunch of opinions thrown at them that other parents wouldn't have. And then I would take your clip and say, you have to listen to all this crap, and then you have to say, uh, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And this would be a 2-second a thing under the umbrella of how to have a robust family life, despite all of the appointments, all of the added uh, whatever. Like because parents, particularly, like the data is showing us from the care study, year 0 to 2, parents are under an incredible pressure, and it can really damage family joy, establishing routines of